Hey there, did you miss us? We've missed you too, but don't fret, your favorite weekly dose of news that matters is back. This week, serious news out of Paris, where former Arts and Culture Minister and Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa died suddenly. We unpack what we know so far. In the Eastern Cape, EFF leader Julius Malema suffered another legal blow, and in Gauteng, the Special Investigating Unit uncovered massive corruption. The good news, authorities are clawing some of the money back. The Rand has been doing surprisingly well, and Mzansi is smashing records with a Springbok win and some Emmy nominations. Abroad, Donald Trump is trying to broker peace in Gaza, yes really, while a former DRC president has been sentenced to death for war crimes. In celeb land, one iconic couple has called it quits while another made it official with a wedding. Plus, a Japanese city is restricting screen time, and the world mourns the death of legendary primatologist Jane Goodall. So let's dive into these stories and more in this week's wrap, brought to you by myself, Arashni Pillay, and the Explained Koza team. First up in your national stories, Julius Malema faces up to 15 years in jail after being found guilty over shots he fired at an EFF event in 2018. The East London Magistrates Court rejected claims that the weapon was a toy gun, noting video of Malema firing into a crowd of 20,000 people. The case, brought by AfriForum, adds to Malema's legal woes after a recent hate speech conviction. Malema has vowed to legally challenge the ruling. He's out on bail with pre-sentencing due in January. The Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, revealed on Monday that 2 billion rand was stolen from the Tembisa hospital. The money was funneled through 3 syndicates with help from junior staffers. SIU boss Andy Motibi said a deep dive into more than 2,200 procurement files exposed a hot mess of fraud and maladministration. Now the unit and the National Prosecuting Authority's Asset Forfeiture Unit are going after the crooks' assets, aiming to claw back some of that money. Good news for accountability. The rand hit its strongest level against the dollar in over a year yesterday, around 17 rand 18 cents to the dollar. The 2.5% gain is thanks to weak US jobs data, with private sector employment unexpectedly shrinking in the US. This has sparked talk of Federal Reserve rate cuts, making South African assets more attractive for their higher returns. Meanwhile, the rand has weakened 3.6% against the euro since the start of the year and strengthened only 0.4% against the pound. The Springboks were in fine form when they walloped Argentina 67-30 on Saturday in Durban. Star of the show, block fly half Sasha Feinberg Mngomezulu scored a record 37 points. The match also included a bizarre moment when Cheslin Colby drop-kicked the ball instead of passing, resulting in a try by Argentinian Santiago Chocobares. Oops! Still, the Bucks are now the only team to have won 2 consecutive championship matches and will play Argentina again in London on Saturday. South Africa made history with 4 nominations at the Emmy Awards, the most of any African country. All 4 are multi-choice shows: box docu Chasing the Sun 2, Cook, Catch Me a Killer, and School Ties, about abused students who were silenced. The winners will be announced in New York on the 24th of November, but wait, there's more. The Heart is a Muscle, a Cape Town set film, is our official Oscar entry. It's already scooped awards at Berlin and Silver Scamfierce. Moving on to your international news, Trump on Monday unveiled a controversial 20-point plan to end Israel's deadly war on Gaza. Backed by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, it calls for an immediate ceasefire, hostages released within 72 hours, Gaza's demilitarization, no Hamas role in governance, and a transitional authority chaired by Trump until the reformed Palestinian Authority takes over. Hamas has 3 or 4 days to respond, with Trump warning of severe consequences if they refuse. The PA welcomed the plan, that's the Palestinian Authority, but critics called it biased. Joseph Kabila, DRC president from 2001 to 2019, was sentenced to death in absentia on Tuesday. He is accused of plotting to overthrow the government by backing Rwanda-linked M23 rebels in February. A military court in Kinshasa found Kabila guilty of treason, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, also ordering him to pay $50 billion in damages. Kabila's whereabouts are unknown, and he was neither present nor represented at trial. His party says it's political. Current President Felix Tshisekedi says it's justice. One celeb couple ends, another begins. After 19 years, actor Nicole Kidman and singer Keith Urban have reportedly called it quits. Kidman, who apparently fought to save the marriage, filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, according to the BBC. But love's alive elsewhere. Pop star Selena Gomez and producer Benny Blanco tied the knot in a star-studded Santa Barbara wedding on Saturday. Gomez wore a custom Ralph Lauren gown, joined by guests like Taylor Swift and Steve Martin. A Japanese city has introduced a rule limiting screen time to 2 hours per day outside of work and school. The goal, more family time and better sleep, says the mayor. It's not enforceable, but Japan's strong rule-following culture may prompt people to take it seriously, albeit reluctantly, if resident responses are anything to go by. Some are complaining of overreach, but the mayor says he's looking to prompt a long overdue discussion in Japanese society. Tributes are pouring in after famed primatologist and animal rights activist Dame Jane Goodall passed away on Wednesday in California. Goodall was the world's foremost expert on chimpanzees and was one of the first people to document tool use by chimps in the 1960s in Gombe, Tanzania. She's being remembered as a tireless advocate for the natural world. In 2022, toy maker Mattel revealed a Jane Goodall Barbie made of 99% recycled plastic. R.I.P. to one of nature's fiercest defenders. On to your longer story. South African ambassador Nathi Mthethwa found dead in Paris from suspected death by suicide. In news that shocked the nation, South Africa's ambassador to France, Nathi Mthethwa, was found dead in Paris on Tuesday. He was just 58. French investigators say the former cabinet minister's body was discovered in the courtyard of the Hyatt Regency's Paris hotel, where he'd been staying on the 22nd floor. On Monday, Mthethwa's wife reported him missing after receiving a troubling message where he apologized and hinted at ending his life. A note addressed to her was found in his room. Police investigators claimed the hotel room had been forced open with scissors, but there were no signs of drugs, struggle, or third-party involvement. Prosecutors are leaning towards death by suicide, though the Paris Judicial Police are still piecing together details. An ANC stalwart, Mthethwa was arrested in 1989 for his anti-apartheid activities. Post-1994, he rose through the ranks, serving as police minister from 2009 to 2014, arts and culture minister from 2014 to 2019, and later sport, arts and culture minister until 2023. In December 2023, he was appointed ambassador to France and UNESCO delegate, tasked with deepening South Africa's international ties. But Mthethwa's sudden death raises serious questions, not just about what happened in Paris, but about unresolved issues back home. His career was marred by controversy, notably the 2012 Marikana massacre, where police killed 34 striking minors under his watch as police minister, sparking calls for his resignation. In 2022, as Sports, Arts and Culture Minister, he championed the 22 million rand monumental flag project, pitched as a nation-building symbol. The plan, which included a 100-meter flagpole, drew massive backlash for its extravagance in a country grappling with unemployment, inequality and hunger. The public outcry was so intense that President Ramaphosa stepped in, scrapping the project entirely, with Mthethwa conceding it had become divisive rather than unifying. It was a 22 million rand flag after all. More recently, the Madlanga Commission probing corruption in South Africa's justice system, more about this later, heard testimony accusing him of shielding ex-crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli from prosecution. He was expected to testify about this soon, fueling online speculation that there was possibly foul play involved in his death. French prosecutors, however, insist no such evidence has been found. In American news, the country has hit pause on parts of its government after Congress and the White House failed to agree on a funding bill by the 30th of September deadline. So what's actually going on? First of all, Why does the government shut down at all? It boils down to how America funds its operations. Unlike many countries where budgets roll over automatically, the US system forces lawmakers to pass fresh spending bills every year. If they don't, non-essential services grind to a halt. That means national parks shut, food inspections stall, and hundreds of thousands of federal workers are sent home without pay, though they usually get reimbursed later. Essential functions like border security, military operations, and social security carry on. This latest row is over a short-term funding extension. Right now, Republicans who control Congress and the White House want a so-called clean extension to November. That's a temporary bill called a continuing resolution that keeps last year's funding levels until the 21st of November, about 7 weeks with no extra policy changes. It's meant to be simple: keep the government open, negotiate the big budget later. Democrats, however, won't sign on unless the bill includes extending affordable care. That's the subsidies that help millions afford affordable health insurance, which is expiring soon. They also want to reverse Trump's recent Medicaid cuts for low-income folks. Now, look, these shutdowns are not new. Since 1980, there have been 10 other shutdowns. Ronald Reagan had 8 in the 1980s, mostly brief. Bill Clinton faced a 21-day one in 1995 to 96 over welfare reforms. Barack Obama's 2013 shutdown lasted 16 days, sparked by Republican attempts to block Obamacare. And Trump's first term saw 3, including a record 35-day standoff in 2018 to 2019 over border wall funding, costing the economy $11 billion. The US's divided setup, without automatic budget approval like in many other countries, makes these clashes regular. But this time it's different. Trump's team isn't just dodging the shutdown, they're leaning in, threatening to use it to permanently cut non-essential jobs, with a recent memo ordering agencies to prep for mass firings, unlike past temporary retrenchments. Democrats are also digging in, but with Senate rules requiring 60 votes to pass most bills, Democrats can stall, but they don't have the numbers to set the agenda. How long could it last? Nobody knows. Some shutdowns have been resolved in days, others in weeks. But as with so much in Trump's administration, things are starting to take a dark turn. Finally, the Mdlanga Commission has dominated the news since it kicked off on 17 September to investigate claims that crime syndicates, corrupt officials, and politicians have infiltrated the very justice system meant to stop them. If you've had trouble keeping up, we don't blame you. Here's who's testified so far and what they had to say. First up, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, testifying from 17th to 19th September. As the whistleblower who sparked the inquiry, Mkhwanazi was the Commission's first witness. He repeated his claims that the political killings task team's work was systematically undermined, alleging Minister Senzo Mchunu instructed the disbanding of the team, crippling one of the only units making headway on political killings. He also described manipulation of dockets and deliberate suppression of investigations, and provided supporting evidence, including WhatsApp chats and financial records showing leaks, sabotage, and protection of cartels. Then there was General Fani Masimola, the National Police Commissioner, who testified from the 22nd to the 23rd of September. He admitted Mchunu's order to shut down the task team was unconstitutional, but said he followed it anyway. He claimed he first heard of the disbandment of the team via WhatsApp while on leave, not exactly proper channels. He also linked Deputy Commissioner Shadrach Sibiya to underworld figures, suggesting senior leadership may have been compromised. And finally, he linked the recent arrest of crime intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo, who is up next, to efforts to undermine anti-corruption work, suggesting retaliation. And finally, Khumalo himself, who is head of crime intelligence, testified from 29 September to 1 October, fresh off his June arrest on fraud and corruption charges related to the alleged irregular appointments and misuse of vetting funds. Khumalo does remain suspended. Before his testimony was cut short when he fell ill, he did say the following. He revealed that he and Mkhwanazi and Masimole were forced out of acting leadership roles in 2012 while trying to reform crime intelligence, suggesting a plot to protect corrupt interests. He implied his June arrest was retaliation for challenging the status quo, echoing 2012's purges. He also vowed to expose syndicate infiltration by drug cartels into police, judiciary, and business, making reference to ongoing Gauteng counterintelligence operations probing these networks. And finally, he promised more revelations about syndicate infiltration, but not all will be public. He's applied to share sensitive information in private to protect sources and operations. Meanwhile, the Commission's original evidence leader, Advocate Terry Matau, stepped down less than 2 weeks in, confirming in an interview yesterday with News 24 that it was over concerns over the lack of allocations for the Commission's budget. He was replaced by Advocate Matthew Chaskelson. Parliament now is considering calling President Ramaphosa to testify in its own inquiry. If the Commission's concluding recommendations are actually implemented, it could help rebuild trust. But with just a 147 million rand budget and a history of ignored findings, it's still too early to say. Read the full explainer on this on our website, explain.coza. That's it for this week. We will see you next week.